Now, if you told me 3 months ago that I would end up in the middle of the ocean on one of the most beautiful beaches in the world, I probably would have told you was absolutely crazy. But there I was. Now, before I ended up in the DR, I found myself sitting alone at the airport, questioning the purpose of the trip. I wanted this blue passport right here to take me all around the world, but I also wanted to learn more about my culture and my ancestors. My journey began when I started researching the transatlantic slave trade. As a black man and a study of history, this is an era in time that I felt obligated to research. So this trip was going to be about gaining knowledge as well as living my life to the fullest. I ended up taking a nap and I woke up in paradise. I knew I wasn't dreaming when I heard the pilot. It didn't take long at all to get through customs and I was on my way. The experience that would change my life forever was finally beginning. The air was refreshing. The mood was vibrant. The people were friendly and speaking a different language. My 2 years of Spanish in high school, they weren't paying off too well. One thing you'll quickly notice about the metropolitan areas of the DR is that they're very, very busy. They're very, very busy all the time. Shuttles was in and out of the airport. Cars and motorbikes everywhere. But the farther you went out, the more agriculture you would see. Agriculture is at the root and the heart of the DR. This was also the case when the indigenous people of the island, the Taino, settled here 5,000 years before Christopher Columbus arrived. The Taino people, which means good or noble, welcomed Columbus with hospitality. The Taino called the entire island Quisquia, Haiti, and Bohio, describing the different tribal nations that was on the island. When Columbus arrived, he renamed the island Hispaniola. With Columbus arriving here in 1492, so did the Spanish explorers. The Spanish explorers definitely didn't treat the Taino good or noble, and their arrival started a very dark and violent period for the island. In the 1500s, many of the Taino were either killed or died from the diseases that the Spanish brought with them, especially smallpox. The Spanish explorers also discovered gold in the rivers of Hispaniola and ravaged the island of its gold deposits. The kidnapped and enslaved Africans also arrived in the 1500s in some of the most horrific conditions known to mankind. The African slaves were brought to the island for two main reasons: to work the thriving sugar plantations and to attend to the livestock that the Spanish had brought with them. By the 1600s, the Spanish had pretty much abandoned the western part of the island and headed to Mexico. Why did they head to Mexico? Because they had pretty much ravaged the land of all the gold they can find in Hispaniola, and they heard there was silver in Mexico, so they went there to go get it. After they left, the French moved into the western part of Hispaniola and named it Saint Dominique. The French had a real problem on their hands. Saint Dominique consisted mostly of slaves who worked the sugar plantations. A French black man named Toussaint Louverture was inspired by the French Revolution and launched a massive slave revolt and took over the French territory. Louverture actually defeated Napoleon's army when he sent them in to Saint Dominique to reestablish slavery. The African slaves were not having it and slaughtered and killed many French that were on the island. The first country in the New World that began by freed ex-slaves who took their freedom was named Haiti, and the Haitians took over the entire island. Now, the eastern part of the island resented the Haitian rule and had their own uprising, which led to the independent nation of the Dominican Republic being created in 1844. The next 150 years were very troubling for the DR. Dictators, corruption, civil war, and foreign occupation, including the United States, have plagued the small country. Today, the DR is a democracy with thriving tourism, industries, and agriculture. Looking at this beautiful country now, it's hard to believe that it's been through all of this chaos, but it has. But hey, my country had a civil war over slavery. You never know what the future holds. I got to my room at the resort and went straight to the balcony. The waves crashing in the ocean sounded like a symphony to me. This was going to be my life for the next week. God was shining on me. I had a long day ahead of me in the morning, so I grabbed me a great meal, had a few drinks, and chilled out. Before I called it a night, I went and reflected by the ocean. Why was I there? What was I supposed to be seeing, learning, and experiencing? There was no way I was going to let this opportunity pass me by to grow as a man and become a better person. The next morning brought a very bright and vibrant day. I went on an excursion to see how Dominican life really was. We were heading to the mountains of Punta Cana. On our way deep into the mountains, we passed through several small towns that were fishing villages. They also had a lot of items for sale when the tourists came through.
We are here to show you the real Dominican Republic. And have a great time.
Our tour guide did an excellent job of showing us the real Dominican Republic and everyday life in the country. It was the small things about everyday life in the DR that intrigued me. This was fresh beef from a cow that was slaughtered that morning. In the mountains, the people only have electricity from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. Since they are without electricity 12 hours a day, food is prepared fresh daily, including meat. At first, the highest peaks of the mountains were in the distance, but with every hill we climbed on that rough and rugged road, they got closer. Until finally we were in the high peaks of the mountains. My group arrived at one of the welcome centers in the villages, and we received a really warm welcome.
Hola, hola.
Yep, I know these are my brothers now. They playing dominoes. But this is what I came for. That view from above. I took a minute to take it all in. The incredible colors, plants I've never seen before. But that view, it was absolutely breathtaking. Reptiles are abundant in the DR, including two of the country's star attractions, iguanas and crocodiles.
Romeo is 25. Juliet is 15. They will live for 80 years. Wow.
Remember what I said about the freshness of Dominican food earlier. Don't get too attached to any chickens or pigs around here. You can't come to the DR and not experience an authentic cigar. I found a Dominican cigar is just as good, or if not better, than a Cuban. This is the official tribal mask of the DR. The three sexes represent the origins of the Dominicans. The top was for the Taino, the middle was for the Spaniards, the bottom, the foundation, was for the Africans. I definitely bought one of these. This was a typical house in the mountains of the DR. This one was very small, and 5 people lived here.
Okay, this way, my family.
Come on, my family.
Yeah.
Did you see the floor?
Cooking was done using a wood stove. Propane is used for cooking as well. The DR produces some of the finest coffee in the world.
Here's my family, $5.
It's been made like this for hundreds of years.
Okay? This job, do it 2 people with a bottle of rum in hand, drink it, give to the other, and then we start breaking the coffee shell. Vamos. Por ahí María se va.
Todas las Marias son dulces.
Ajá, por ahí María se va. Dulce como el caramelo. Por ahí María se va.
This is fresh cocoa, which is a major product here. I also discovered that coconut was brought to the New World by the Africans. Coconut oil is used from everything from cooking, healing your skin, to treating ailments of the body, including digestive problems. This country sure does love its rum, and I couldn't keep my hands off of it.
Having orange. Yeah. Orange, rice and beans.
Finally, my favorite pastime had arrived. It was time to eat some authentic Dominican food. The grilled pork chops and fried chicken on my plate were running around this morning probably. This fresh meat was amazing. You could taste the difference. You don't have all the preservatives and other crap they put in the meat they have in the grocery stores back home. This is how meat is supposed to be prepared. Clean and fresh. Red beans and rice and pasta finished the deal. I could see and taste the influence of all 3 makers of Dominican culture. I've been eating soul food my entire life, and this was definitely it. After the meal, we left the village and headed to Macau Beach. This was a local beach. It wasn't heavy eroded like the beach at the resort. The water was beautiful. One part of it was green that turned into a mesmerizing blue. It was time to catch some waves. Or let them catch me.
Woo!
What an amazing day. When I got back to the resort, I reflected on my adventures. I spent the rest of the week being a beach bum at the resort and writing a new book. This is how life is supposed to be. I wanted to get into the streets of the DR one more time. I was leaving in the morning and someone suggested I take an ocean spa. It was an all-day cruise. You got 3 different massages and also some relaxation yoga. I'm like, all right, I'm down. But before you go on a boat, you get a foot treatment. This shit was so ticklish, but it really worked. These dudes went to work on my feet. We finally got on the floating spot, and it was well worth it. The first station was a massage bed. It was already putting me to sleep. After 2 hand massages, using coffee and oil, I woke up and didn't know where the hell I was. We pulled up to a pier and had a great lunch. All of the great food, rum, and massage treatments were definitely spoiling me. something kept bringing my mind back to the fact that my ancestors arrived at this beautiful country through the Atlantic slave trade. They probably arrived to a port just like this one. Because of the sacrifices the ones before me made, I was able to see my culture has a lot in common with my Dominican brothers and sisters. We all trying to be happy in a world that hasn't always been that good to us. My last night in the DR was a real party. Such a party that I barely remember it. And all I have are these pictures that I took and barely remember taking them. Damn. Had a good time though. The next morning was sobering to say the least. I didn't want to go. I had fallen in love with this country. That's what the DR would do to you. And I loved every moment of it.